Okay, so I think we're good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of the way. I have power cord here. There you go.
That's on.
Thank you. Oh, that's on. Oh, thank you.
I need you all to do me a favor.
That's good.
I've been waiting for 3 years to use PowerPoint Live in front of a real audience. PowerPoint Live came out and then the entire planet shut down and all of our meetings. So if you've never tried this,
That's for sure.
humor me because I'd really like to see if it actually works. I think it'll work fine. Look at that, I can see people joining. Has anybody ever tried this in a real lot? Yes, you're it. Like, goes more of it? No. Okay, sorry. Okay.
We still like you, movie.
We're so much. By the way, don't forget to introduce yourselves.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My name's Dwayne. I'm a sysadmin for IFAS, which is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. We are the rednecks at the university. We're all ag all the time. So,
Joe Gasper, also on the same team, systems administrator.
a little less redneck, but it's okay. We still love it. That's a pretty good amount. We'll go ahead and go. As we're moving forward, if you decide you want to be a part of the Cool Kids Club and join this live presentation, there will be a URL at the top. One of the things that this does that's pretty amazing, and this is really not even what the presentation is about, is this allows everybody in the audience to see the slides on your local device. It makes hyperlinks in the slides clickable and interactive. It also transcribes my voice and lets you translate it into 70-something different languages.
Including Klingon. Did they?
Klingon, you can still do in a live event, but you can't do it in PowerPoint Live. So from an accessibility standpoint, this is something we really wanted to try. It's pretty incredible. We're good. Let's go for it. Okay, so we're going to recap. Charles let us talk last time, and I guess we did okay because he invited us back.
I was desperate.
He was desperate. We talked to you last time about our storage migration plans. We called it the storage frog gig because it was our three-pronged approach to how we were going to tackle cloud storage and modernize our storage throughout IFAS. And we did that. So all of those offices that are currently green, we switched them to purple and blue. They have all moved to OneDrive and Teams for 100% of their file storage. The other component was Azure File Sync, and we are in the process of doing that. We are upgrading and refreshing hardware and moving local file servers at our research centers into Azure File Sync and replacing that with new hardware. And the hardware we were able to purchase from the money that we saved by moving stuff to OneDrive and Teams, because if you didn't know, it's free. So our research centers are using Teams for storage. They're getting that, you tell a faculty member that they can get 25 terabytes of storage for free, they get pretty excited. And our users, with their 5 terabyte OneDrives. So that redirected money went straight into super awesome hardware. When we're done, we won't have a single spinning disk in any server that we have in our entire fleet. We are pretty happy about that. So the spinning disks are the first thing to go. And this also means that we're more resilient. Our stuff is all in Azure, geo-replicated. The data that you put in Teams is East Coast, West Coast at the same time. So it's really put us in a good position for all of those wonderful natural disasters that we have here in Florida. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about something else. Right?
Well, one thing, though, I think is we drove about 5,500 miles across the state to train people on Teams and get out in front of them and meet them where they were and help them build their first team, see what Teams is. We were talking about, what was this going to mean to them? It wasn't just moving their stuff to the cloud, but what was it going to do and what was it going to help them? And it was really talking about building trust.
Yeah.
And getting out in front of that, because one of the other things we did was talked about, really we apologized to them. How many times has the university turned on software, thrown it over the wall and said, here, go use it? We knew this was going to be different. This was going to be really impactful to them, and we wanted to get out there and talk to them about that.
We also found a lot of really good places to eat in Florida. So what this is a screenshot of our training community. This is the point that Joe was trying to make. This really allowed us to gain the trust of our users by getting out in front of them every single month, doing an evergreening meeting with them to show them what's changing Teams, because Microsoft's always changing something or breaking something. And so,
Improving something, always improving.
right. Right. We'll talk about that as we proceed. So doing this training and getting this exposure in front of our users allowed us that trust that we needed for what we're, again, really here to talk to you about. And that is what we like to talk about, is the virtual events platform that you already own. And so we were proposed, a group came to us and said, hey, I don't know if you knew, the world's shut down and we have conferences that we have to run. We had a whole bunch of people that were scheduled to come. We have a venue rented out. We're ready to go, and now we can't use it. But all these people still want to have their conference. And they came to us and said, can you help us run a bunch of Zoom meetings? And we said, absolutely not. We'll show you a better way to do it. So because they kind of trusted us, it gave us that leverage, that freedom to work inside of Teams and build out a demo for them. We did something different. So we call this offering our virtual venue as a service, because that was the absolute nerdiest way we could show it. And it really has worked, and it has taken off. In fact, too much. We don't get a break now. We are constantly running virtual conferences inside of Teams. We've done a lot of them, and the one number I'm really happy about is that 985, about 700 or 800 of those were live PowerPoint live inside of Teams. So we have really stressed that service out and used it quite a bit. The $7 million figure is one that we estimated based on asking every client that we had what their tied up fees were in the venue that they had already contracted with. So in some cases, we had $600,000-$700,000 commitments to a venue in Pensacola that they couldn't use anymore. And so they had to get letters from our president to say that they weren't allowed to hold it, recoup that money and bring it back. And the crazy thing about this is we went from all that money that was tied up into a venue to a virtual venue that I can make as many rooms in as I want, and it cost them absolutely nothing. So we're going to show you how we did that. So a few things that we get when we do a virtual venue. Joe, your thing broke. Sorry, hang on. I'll just turn around and look at it. I didn't want to look at the projector behind me, but mainly because I can't read it.
Next week.
So we tell our users, think of Teams kind of like it's a virtual hotel. Microsoft made this decision for some reason to call these things that we create, these constructs that we create inside of Teams, channels. We actually tell our users, call them rooms when we're thinking about it from the perspective of a virtual event. A room is more logical to them. It makes sense to them. We've created this digital hotel. If you're looking at it, you're walking around, you poke your head in a room, you see the presentation that's going on, you hear the chatter, you back out, you pick another room. But in Teams, you can do that all in a couple of clicks. So we challenge our people to think about this, again, like it's a digital hotel. Your membership, your ticket into the venue is us adding you to the team. So there's this level of security around it. You're not going to have a bunch of people coming in. It's like getting into the, getting your armband to get in. We're going to add you to the team. You're going to start out in what we call the lobby. You all call it the general channel. But we use the lobby for a special use case. It's the first thing that you see when you join a team for the first time, and you cannot change that experience. So we lock the general channel down. We use the general channel for announcements, moderate it, which doesn't always work, but most of the time it works. So sorry, Charles, but we're going to show you a live demo of that in a second. It's our PA system is what we call it. This is where we're going to post announcements. Carlos, where's Carlos? He left. He did a great post a long time ago on what we call post crafting, making engaging posts inside of Teams, using announcements, using custom banners, using GIFs, using emojis, things that are eye-catching that people are going to look at. So we fill the general channel with those things that are going on as this conference is moving forward. We try to use the team tag responsibly and not blow up everybody's notifications. But when a keynote's about to start, I'm going to post something in the general channel with a team tag and let everybody know, click here to jump in our keynote. I already covered this, there's multiple rooms that you can enter, and all of those rooms can contain multiple meetings. So we lean heavily on channel meetings. We wished that Microsoft loved channel meetings as much as we do, but that's not the reality right now. So we also create, in some cases we have vendors or exhibitors. So we'll bring in vendors and exhibitors and we'll give them their own dedicated room, their own dedicated channel. This allows them a space to decorate. They can create a post, they can bring in media, we can add tabs for them because guests can't add tabs, but we can let them decorate their room and put all, their booth in a virtual platform, and people can walk in there virtually and meet them. They can leave messages for them asynchronously. We have had special times during the conference where all the exhibitors go live in their room by clicking meet, starting an instant channel meeting. And then all of our attendees walk virtually through those rooms and jump in and talk to the exhibitor. We have some motivational techniques that we use to help people find their way there that we'll show off here in a moment too. One thing, how many of you do science fairs and poster sessions? What? Is the University of Florida? Okay, so all right.
It's only a research institute, I'm sure. There's gotta be.
So poster sessions are, I guess, kind of a big deal just for us. So maybe this won't be as exciting, but we use SharePoint Spaces to execute a virtual poster session. So we'll have our authors give us their posters ahead of time. If you haven't played with SharePoint Spaces, and we'll show you a demo of it here in a second, but it's kind of like a little VR environment. It's like you're trapped in a bubble and you can look around and you can interact and play with things. And so we make tables, we put posters on tables, and we bring in some media connected to those posters. And those poster authors, just like those exhibitors, they have dedicated rooms. So in some cases, these posters are judged. In other cases, there are just people who want to ask the author questions. So we've run conferences that have over 100 live poster sessions running. And so we'll divide, odds and evens, and they'll go live in their room, just like the vendor would, by starting a channel meeting. And then people can jump in and ask that author a question. There's an open lounge for networking and catching up. So we always create what we call a lobby. Or the lounge, and sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 of them, but these are unmoderated channels. These are channels that anybody could jump in, start a meeting, post a picture of their cat, talk about the weather, whatever they want to do, they can do it in the lounge. So we try to still have some of that human connection as best as you can.
We've had attendees do Cards Against Humanity.
Oh yeah, we've had some fun.
They've had jam sessions, playing some music and guitars. So it's, especially early on in the pandemic, it was a great place for people to kind of get back together. I really appreciate that.
There's always some activity after the conference in the lounge, which makes me really happy to see. People want to see each other. There is no pancakes, there is no bacon, unfortunately, and there is no bourbon, and there is no beer served at a virtual conference, but you have to bring your own.
Bring your own,
Yeah, BYOB. I'm back in. So hopefully you're joined through PowerPoint Live, so you can actually see this on your own screen. But this is a demo of one of our conferences. This was a national conference that we did for the National Association of County Agricultural Agents. This conference had about 1,400 people in it, and about 1,200 or 1,300 of them were external guests to our organization. That was fun. One thing that you can see here is a screenshot of the general channel. This is the announcing that we do throughout the entire event to make sure that people know what's going on. You can see this example. We're about to start a live stream of the delegates voting session, which was a special meeting that only certain people were allowed to join, but they wanted it live streamed. So we did it on YouTube through Teams NDI, and then brought in the YouTube live stream as a tab in the general channel, and then hyperlinked that tab in the general channel. So the people who weren't allowed to actively participate in the meeting still just clicked the link. It kept them in Teams, and that's one of our themes is 100% of the experience that we build makes sure that the end user stays in Teams and never has to leave the app. We do not allow anything that knocks you out into a web browser, opens another program, or anything like that. We want a consistent experience inside of Teams. This is a really, really important part of what we build. This is, if you can see it, is a SharePoint list. This SharePoint list is the navigation system for our attendees on how to get where they want to go. Oftentimes they don't see this. They don't see all these channels. You can only show 10 channels. So then you got 100 hidden channels, right? Well, somebody who's not familiar with Teams, they may not even know that that's there. So they're going to miss out on something. So we kind of surface that differently by creating a SharePoint list. Joe figured out some really weird stuff that you can do with Microsoft Access and hyperlinks. But basically, we can create live hyperlinks that will take you to that channel from that list. So it's just like you clicked on the channel in the interface, but we put it all in one place to make it a lot easier for them. This is how our people get around. We educate them on how to pop out a tab, and we say, keep this tab running the entire time and reference it when you want to know what's going on. This is your schedule. This is how you figure out where you want to be. And it gives you the way to get there by clicking that hyperlink.
One key point here is that's a SharePoint list, but we brought it in as a SharePoint page. And there's some nuance between pulling a list into as a tab and how that will jump, links on those will jump you out of Teams. Putting it on a SharePoint page keeps you in Teams.
Isn't that great? Yeah, so you use a proper Microsoft list tab and you hyperlink a resource inside your team and click it, it will open up your web browser, which will then ask you to open Teams, which will then take you to the thing that you wanted to get to in the first place.
Is that your reasoning behind keeping everything?
Yes, that stinks. Yeah, having a person see that, especially if they're not familiar with Teams or have used that before, they're gonna be like, whoa, wait a minute, this app's trying to like hack me or do something. You know, we want to avoid all of that.
Yeah,
So
doing it just like this is the same thing when you go to a conference center. You get in the morning, you go downstairs, you're in the conference center. That's where you are all day. Same thing with this. You're in Teams.
yeah, we want 100% of our experience to be inside of Teams.
Question?
So when you tell all of your attendees that are joining that, like, you pop out a tab, how do you give that information to them before they join the team? Is that all blasted to them, like, with their registration? How do they know what to do?
I will tell you in about 15 slides. No, I appreciate it.
The question
good.
is how, just to repeat the question.
Oh, yeah, the question was, how do we tell people to do this? How do we even educate them on how to pop out a tab in the first place if we're assuming that they may not even have a lot of experience with Teams? And we will talk about that. What are we looking at? Oh, this is the lounge. Yeah, so this was, you can kind of see again, hopefully you're sitting on your laptop there. This was a coffee hour that we didn't do this. We didn't promote this. We didn't prompt this. Somebody just made a little graphic and said, hey, we're going to do a coffee hour tomorrow morning, right before the conference starts. Come in and join me. We're going to sit around and talk about, I don't know, coffee or whatever it was they did. And in this particular conference, we were currently getting hit by a hurricane. And so we talked about the weather quite a bit. Our keynote speaker was great because he had his window open behind him the entire time. And the trees were all like this. It was pretty awesome. So these are some channel meetings. So as we're jumping down, I'm going down the list here. We had channel meetings. One thing that you may note about this is we use a event coordinator service account to schedule all the channel meetings because we can't have co-organizer yet. It didn't exist. That option didn't exist when we did this, but it also keeps everything in one place and it makes sure that all of the meeting artifacts that are created are owned by that one singular service account that Joe and I have. That was a good thing. This is a SharePoint page. So again, we really rely on SharePoint pages. And where we're at now is we're down in the agronomy and pest management room. And we've taken that SharePoint list that we had in the general channel and we've applied a view to it to filter it only to agronomy and pest management courses that are on the schedule. So when you come into the agronomy and pest management room and you click on the agenda, you're only going to see data that's relevant to the subject that you're currently looking at. And then at the bottom, because we're doing channel meetings and they sometimes go to the channel and sometimes have the same name, we're able to do a highlighted web part or highlighted content web part and automatically have the recordings populate. So it's less work for Joe and I to have to do. So we build that web part, we build a file name filter, pray that stream names it correctly, and then it should show up in that list at the bottom.
Just one key thing here too is you're looking at it. This is a week-long meeting. I'm sorry, a week-long conference. There's definitely a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. So that previous screenshot had like that was multiple days worth of scheduled meetings. This is a little example of SharePoint Spaces. So again, we bring this SharePoint Spaces is a SharePoint page that you a special type of page that you create that gives you this little 3D environment. Joe's going to show you a live demo of this. I think on. Okay, you want to flip over and show that? I think the EPI one, if you search. Sorry, I feel really weird having my back. So again, we bring it in as a tab. so that everybody can, again, have that consistent experience. That's really emphasize that. So this is an actual photograph from UF campus. We went out and bought a little cheapo 360 camera, and we went and took pictures all over campus. And we brought in those photos as the background setting for our virtual poster session. So this gave people a little bit of a you know, I guess like a familiar experience. You can take this poster, you can drag it up to you, you can zoom in on it, you can move around on it and look at it and really get into it. And then we also, in some cases, were able to convince these students, authors, to provide us a voiceover. And you can create a secondary action on an item in SharePoint Spaces and link that to a media file. So Joe's gonna maybe play.
Hi there, this is Angie Chen from Department of Large Animal Clinical.
So we can hear the author talk about the poster in their own words, and it allows everybody who's joining the conference to do that whenever they want. We don't have to have, like in a real live conference where we get to see real live people again, you have to stand there dressed up very nicely next to your poster and wait on people to come talk to you. In this case, attendees can do it whenever they want. And we've really heard the feedback that we've gotten is, we want to keep doing this. Even when our things go back to in person, we still want to continue to provide a virtual poster experience. Moving on down. What am I looking at, Joe? Oh, tech support. Yeah, things go wrong. Things always go wrong. So we created a tech support channel. We have our help desk monitoring it. They all hype up the channel notifications so that if anybody has an issue, they can post something there and we'll have somebody jump on it to help them. Often problems, you're not using the Teams desktop app. You're on a Mac. Now, let me refine that. You're on a Mac and you don't have the latest Teams desktop app installed. So we see that happen. We see that happen quite a bit. Sorry, Joe, my thing keeps crashing here. Tons of channel meetings.
Question.
Yes,
The
sorry.
SharePoint Spaces, is that something that's included with a certain level license, or is that?
You
something
already
in
own it.
addition? You do?
Yep.
You already own SharePoint Spaces.
Everything we're showing you, you already have.
Okay.
Yeah.
It may not show up in in the SharePoint site that's attached to the team. It's supposed to, but you might have to turn it on as a SharePoint feature.
Okay,
But it's just like adding a new SharePoint page.
thank you.
This particular conference has a history of doing agricultural tours in whatever city it is that is hosting the conference to show the agricultural industry from that region and that area. And so they didn't want to not do that. They were like, we're still doing the tours, figure it out. Okay, so we came up with this. We have day one of tours. I'm sorry, this was day two. We have a channel meeting with every single tour that you could go learn about the blueberry industry in Pennsylvania or talk about chickens or whatever it was that they were doing. And they also had this extra requirement of we want all the tours to run at the same time, and we don't want it to be a recording. We want people to have to watch it live. We want someone to have to make a decision and commit to it and jump into a tour. So we, again, went back to our best friend, PowerPoint Live, and used embedded YouTube videos inside the PowerPoint Live deck. So when you jump into a channel meeting, it will fast forward you to wherever the presenter is inside of that YouTube video, which is a pretty sweet feature. It's also way more bandwidth friendly to do it that way. And this is an example of an exhibitor. I mentioned earlier that we had some tricks to promote people to go out and speak and talk to those exhibitors. So you can see a little bit here, it says there's a code word. So the organizer of this event said we want to make sure people talk to the exhibitors. So there were code words hidden down at the bottom of the post, forcing them to push see more on the post that was done by the exhibitor. And at the end, there was a survey that you had to put all the code words in, and then there was a raffle prize drawing for everybody who got all the correct code words put in. You could do something super simple like a quiz and forms and have them put all the code words in, and then take the output and do a random number picker or something from however many people filled it out. So what does this mean for the attendees? Kind of talked about a lot of this. All the content is in a single place. We're making sure that they are staying inside of the Teams desktop application and they do not have to leave. This leads to a very consistent experience. They're not juggling between apps. They're not looking for the meeting link in their email. there is an awareness of the event as it proceeds. They can see when a meeting is running in a channel. They can click on it. And sometimes, depending on what channels they're showing, they'll see a purple camera icon running next to it to indicate to them, hey, we can jump in here and we can talk. This was a lot of poster sessions all simultaneously running. These were authors sitting in their room waiting for somebody to come in and talk to them. And you can see all the camera icons running next to these rooms at the same time.
How many have been to Ignite or maybe up in Orlando? And you're rushing between wings and it's hot. And you know, you crane your neck around every corner looking for that entrance to that conference room. You can just easily jump in to 50 different sessions with the click of a mouse right here. And as Dwayne already mentioned, our users want this experience more, you know, especially for these poster sessions. They want this virtual experience. They're able to get access to the data and the posters and meet more people this way.
You won't win your Fitbit challenge, but you'll definitely be able to get to all these sessions, like you said, with just a couple of clicks. So moving on down, there's a we're here together mentality that kind of forms of the attendees of the conference. They are virtually bumping into each other as they're flipping around through sessions and seeing each other in the chat, seeing each other in the lounge. There is this togetherness that we can achieve by doing it this way as well. And like I said, there's no, I hate this phrase so bad. It makes me so angry. Where's the meeting link? Like, it's in Teams. You just click join inside the channel. We have conditioned people to go hunt through their email for a meeting link. This very, very interactive, all-encompassing product, or platform rather, is new to a lot of people. So we see things like this quite often. Not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but whoa, you crashed it. PowerPoint Live. I think you got to hit the present. Resume session. Yeah, there we go. Resume session. Sure. I don't know what happened there. You just click in the middle of it? What's it do? Like I said, this is an experiment. I was upfront about that. Anyway, moving on. This is a gigantic web page that scrolls for about 15 seconds of Zoom links. And they're all Zoom links that require you to register to be able to attend because we don't want to get Zoom bombed. That wasn't ours since we found it online. And again, I'm not saying that there's, I mean, this works, but do you know if that meeting's running before you click on it? Do you know who's in it? Can you see any of the conversation? Do you have any idea what's going on in that call before you click and go through the registration process? And the answer is no, you don't. So thinking beyond just the event that we ran, Teams gives us some really, really interesting capabilities that you can't even achieve with a live event. When we all leave here, are you all going to talk to me? Maybe, hopefully, we'll be friends. But when we leave here, we vacate this room, we get in our cars, we drive home, that's it. This team never goes anywhere, though. The team never gets torn down. This digital hotel that we built stays there. People can continue to come back to it and reference it and get content from it. They can continue to have conversations. We have people having conversations that aren't even members of our university, are still external guests that are coming in and looking at content and watching recordings of seminars from past conferences. So the stakeholders have access to event analytics. So we have SharePoint behind the scenes tracking stuff for us, telling us what files are being accessed, how many page hits we're getting, how many unique viewers are looking at stuff. We have Teams analytics that gives us an idea of what's actually going on as far as active members, meetings, conversations, reactions, all of those things. And there's no silos. Again, if you haven't noticed the theme here, everything's all in one place. That is the core of the offering that we're trying to, the core mission of our offering that we're trying to achieve is making sure everything's in one place. And there's no post-production cleanup. Joe and I are not hacking up a recording, making sure to download the chat before we hang up the call. We don't have to do that. The chat's all built into the team already as a part of that little compartment that gets created at the channel meeting. The recordings are already there. Everything's already there. We don't have to do anything after.
And it's searchable.
And it's searchable through Team Search. And we don't have to travel. So this is a screenshot of a previous event that we did back in 2020. This was a very special event to us. The president of this association was a faculty member down in South Florida, and he came to us and said, hey, we saw that you did an event internally in teams. Can you do that for us nationally? We really want to do it. Our association has met for 104 years straight, and we're about to not meet because of COVID. Can we keep the streak going? And we were able to pull it off inside of teams. And this is really, really amazing. You can see, obviously, when the event happened, right? Gigantic spike. But look what happened a week later, 2 weeks later. There's still people coming in this team looking at stuff. There's still value here. There's still data that they need. There's still things that they want. There's things that they want to catch up on, or recording that they want to go back and make sure that they heard it correctly or validate something. Conversation that they want to have with a peer. So going from 1,000, 1,200, whatever that is, down to 116, I mean, that's still a pretty healthy team. It's still doing stuff. It's still serving a purpose. And that's really cool.
All that knowledge during that week, isn't lost. They can still keep going back to that information.
Yeah.
And in a research institution, or their students in here presenting, it's really important for them to continue communicating with maybe their mentors in here and things like that. So they get taking advantage of that team. It doesn't go away.
Like I said, we also get SharePoint Analytics. SharePoint Analytics is a little bit, I think they work pretty well together. You're not going to get everything you want in one place, but you will get an idea of the overall health of your event. If you have 220 people in the team and you have 220 unique viewers of content, hey, everybody's looking at stuff and you can prove it. It's also a slam dunk, like I said, and we talked about, it's free. If you need to do something big, you can go to an A3 and you can get 1,000 seat Teams meetings. And you can get 20,000 seat live events. It says 10,000, but they've temporarily increased it to 20,000 for like the last 2 years in a row. So hopefully it just stays that way. But we're going to make a little joke here, show you the competition. So $325 a month gets you a venue that you can host people in, or you can spend $84,000 and you can buy a virtual events platform from a competitor.
We just walked through every one of those bullets. We've been doing every one of those bullets for 2 years now.
Yeah. So that's why we call this presentation the virtual event platform that you already own. It's not, I'm not teaching you Teams. You already use Teams. I'm just showing you a different way to maybe use Teams that possibly you haven't thought about using it like that before. So we're going to quickly run through this because Charles gave me a warning. The nuances and learnings. External guests are really, really fun. There's a lot of things that guests can't do. Joe, just hammer out that whole thing right there. So they can't initiate PowerPoint Live. They can't have their own virtual background. They can't do their profile picture. Oh, that's too far. They can't add tabs. They can't start channel meetings, which we found out is a good thing because people start channel meetings that they shouldn't start. And the bulk invite process is terrible. How many of you have tried to add 1,200 guests to a team? Those guys are bright. Yeah, we get it. You run the office hours.
It took us 5 years.
Okay. Well, hey, maybe we'll show you something. Hit it, Joe. This is the default invite you get if you go into Azure and you invite somebody to your tenant. If you don't do it through Teams and you do it through Azure or through PowerShell, this is what they get. And it says bad actors sent this. Don't click this. Don't trust this. Block this entire organization. This is awful. So we don't send this. We send something better through a little bit of work. So we rip out, some stuff in PowerShell. You can suppress that invite. You can build out a list of all the people you've invited and their unique redemption URL that will be generated by doing that invite. And then we do something really, really, really highly technical. We put it into Word and we do a mail merge. So one mail merge later, they all have this nice, pretty invite that looks kind of like the standard Teams invite, but we also have the option to customize it, throw in that orientation video that we want them to watch that teaches them how to pop out that tab, and we're off and going. And it's a little bit friendlier and way more successful. So as we continue down, the orientation video is very important. Joe, let's just skip through all this. We talked too dang much. We track the analytics to make sure that people are actually watching the orientation video. We want to make sure that's a really good gauge of how successful is this event going to be, how busy is our help desk going to be. If you're not watching this orientation video, you're probably not going to know how to navigate this conference. Because even if you do know how to use Teams, You may not know how to use it the way that we're using it for this event. PowerPoint Live saves bandwidth. Like I said, we've done about 800 PowerPoint Live presentations across these conferences. We really, really believe in it. I'm even willing to experiment on all of you live with it, so just see how it works. You can use emojis to change the orders of the channels. Channels by default are being alphabetical order. We prefix the channel name with an emoji to group them together. Emojis actually sort, so Joe's got some sort of crazy spreadsheet that shows how they'll sort, which we can share with you. I don't know how he did that. He doesn't sleep, I know that. SharePoint pages are absolutely critical. They're pre-authenticated. Once you're in Teams, you're already authenticated to SharePoint, and so you don't get a login box like you would with a website tab. Use a service account for the event coordination. Again, this makes sure that all those meeting artifacts are owned by one singular account. And you could drop an A3 on it to get at the big meetings if you need it. And you can only show 10 channels. I referenced this before. Sometimes you can show 10 channels. Even if you tell teams to show 10 channels, it doesn't always show those 10 channels. Super awesome feature of not showing everything that you told it to show. So one thing that you can do is you can go through and you can toggle them off and then toggle them back on, which then posts a status message into the channel that you did that. But at least it will toggle it and make, I got it. I got 5 minutes, I'm sorry. Let's go, Joe, we're running out of time. Present in Teams is not available in Teams. So PowerPoint Live, you used to be able to hit the share button and browse for a PowerPoint stored in the Teams channel where you were meeting. When the new meeting experience came around, they took that out, and then they made I guess some sort of a, I don't know, button that you can push in the desktop app and in the Office Online app in PowerPoint to generate your PowerPoint Live presentation, but you do not get that button if you open the PowerPoint slide inside of Teams. So keep that in mind. That's fine.
I blame Carlos Fernandez 100%, so.
He didn't even bother watching.
Please go to
so.
complain.
So also keep in mind that you can change security access permissions on SharePoint pages. Just lock the entire SharePoint pages library down so that members only have read access. Because remember, Teams is built for collaboration, and you add people in, they can collaborate by editing your stuff. So we don't want them to do that in this case. So change the default permissions, lock down certain directories, create extra SharePoint document libraries, apply unique permissions to them to hide your stuff that's critical to the conference. You don't want somebody's presentation getting edited just because somebody clicked on it to look at it. So if you want to talk to us, here's our contact information. If you would like to be a member of our training team, you're more than welcome to join our training team if you go to that link up there. We have about 100 people from other universities. We even let FSU in. And they So we have a few people in there. These national events are all EDU, so we bring in anybody who wants to learn about EDU. We allow them to participate in our Teams Tuesday meetings. Then yes, we are the Shift Show. It's a little podcast that Joe and I do for fun. Star Trek team, if anybody did that. So anybody have any questions on all this mess?
Are you two guys dedicated to Teams SharePoint? Is that 100% of your job?
I'm an SCCM admin, and that shows you that I love pain and suffering. So that's why I signed up to do this.
I'm sysadmin infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we support the extension portion of, we're land grant side, so we support the extension program, which is, again, we saw that first picture, everybody's remote. And we have infrastructure remote. And it just made so much sense that we needed to get into Teams and get our users into Teams. And everybody's got to grow. So that's how we grew and took on this modern workplace part of the role in our department.
Awesome job, guys.
Hey, one quick question, and I'm gonna give you a bonus 3 minutes, because I'd like you guys to really quick mention your Jackson County and how you kind of quickly built that community and what you're looking like now, because I think that type of, how you guys affected that change. I know you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but can you kind of deep dive for 3 minutes on that?
Sure. So when we showed off Teams to our extension program at an in-person conference back in 2019, we created a fictitious county extension office. So there's 67 counties in Florida. Each one of them has an extension office that's partnered with IFAS. And so we made up our own and we tried to think about something fun, and who doesn't love dinosaurs? So we made Jurassic County because we figured the extension agents would laugh, and they did. And we used it for demos during that presentation. But then you couldn't create a team. That, you know, it was a hot mess of how to even get a team. And so there's no way for them to get exposure to teams on their own. So we opened that team up via join code and let people jump into it so that they could see it. And then Joe and I were like, hey, we kind of have a captive audience. All these people jumped into this team now. We can start posting information about this and start hosting meetings in it. And that turned into what's called Teams Tuesday. So the first Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock in the morning, we do a evergreening call where we tell them about all the features that Microsoft has added. And I say that in the kindest way possible, Charles.
Prove this with me.
Where things have moved, why that button's not there anymore, why you can't present PowerPoint Live in Teams. And we tell them about that. And we're honest, and we give them information as it relates to our specific organization. And then we cover a particular part of Office 365. Joe, I think we went 18 months straight without repeating a topic, pretty sure. And we got to the point where we realized we had so many people join that they missed a lot of the foundational stuff that we covered back in the beginning. So we had to rewind and talk about like file management in the cloud, and when do you use OneDrive versus when do you use Teams, and what is SharePoint anyway, that kind of stuff. So we've had
3-year anniversary coming up.
yeah, our 3-year anniversary is going to be in May. Not our anniversary, it's Jurassic. So we've had 34 months of consecutive meetings in Jurassic County, and about 1,200 people have joined. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is they all join on their own. We didn't add anybody. We add people as their peers request them to be added, and they join via a link or via join code. We don't drop in an entire department and add it. They all came for it because they wanted it. And so that's pretty cool. I mean, they want to work better, and we want to show them how to do it better. Yes, sir.
So I got a question for you related to how you have time to do that. So
Joe doesn't sleep. That's how.
we already established a different thing, but I assume you guys may have been able to take some things off your plate by adopting storage, by file sync, this amount of hardware. Assuming you guys did some things to try to give yourself some breathing space to do innovative stuff.
No, we just work longer.
Just 4 hours?
Yeah. So the question is, how do you do all this?
I think Manuel's trying to tie the success of teams to add or something. I think that's what Manuel's trying to do. Your success is what doesn't matter.
It's all because of Azure.
I would say that these guys, first of all, I hope you guys understand when I said you're in for a treat, because these guys are phenomenal. They do amazing things. Take the time, join some of their Jurassic County calls. Are really, really good, and follow them on their podcast. They talk about all this stuff and what some of the other cool stuff they do on their project. You got to get past the beam in, beam out stuff, but once you're past that, it's really, really good. So let's give these guys a hand. We're going to take a break till about 10, 15, 16, something like that. If you guys want to talk to Joe and Dwayne, please come up and ask any questions you might have. But go ahead and take 15-minute break. Enjoy. I think there's still some coffee and some food out there. You guys know where the restrooms are. Talk to you too.
I try to work a great job on this computer side. Good trends that I've been with you guys a little bit on the lately. What I saw you guys now. And I just